Welcome back, everybody, to Crows of Judgment. And we're covering the situation with Shannon one more time because after Emily Artful's video, somebody else has come forward and has provided, I would say, something that I would consider far more relevant to the situation. And I would say that this kind of confirms a lot of things that were in Emily Artful's video. So good on this person, Kevin Coulter, for coming forward. I still have to say allegedly, only because, things, legally speaking, right? Things can still be faked and everything. But there is just so much stuff about Shannon. And even when I watched Emily Artful's video, I even said, towards the end of the video, some of that circumstantial evidence that she shows is very compelling. And I did a video yesterday about the homelessness thing with Shannon and how manipulative and duplicitous she is, which was also in Emily Artful's video. Now, again, I'm still critical of Emily Artful's video. As a personal experience video, I think it's great. As an exposed video with just a ton of receipts, that it wasn't good for that, right? But, we have the whole stream up, so you can get all our thoughts and opinions on that. But let's talk about what Kevin has to say. I never thought I'd find myself related to a situation like this, but I'm absolutely in the business of holding people accountable for their actions, so I'd like to share what I know about the situation between CreepShow Art and Emily Artful. In the interest of preventing doxing, I'm not going to include any information that might put someone in danger, but if it becomes necessary for either a court case or if things get wildly out of control, I can provide more specifics. So he says he's got more about Shannon. I respect that he doesn't want to put anything out that could lead to someone getting doxxed, so let's just leave that as it is. I met Shannon my freshman year of college in 2011. We shared an English class and worked on a group project together. Outside of that, at the time, we didn't have much contact. I ended up leaving that school and attending a community college that was close to my hometown. Hey, man, get your education. That's the most important thing. At that school, I ended up meeting my abuser. She ended up completely separating me from my entire support group, and I lost nearly all of my friends. There was a period of a few months where my abuser and I broke up, and this is when I reconnected with Shannon. Shannon ended up at the same community college, saw me on campus, and stopped me to say hi. I was desperate to make new friends, so this seemed like a blessing. She was fine at the beginning. We'd just hang out and share music, but she became concerning very quickly. Hey, every interaction I've seen with Shannon has been largely negative, so I'm willing to believe that. It started with her introducing me to Anthony's music. She told me that he was her ex, they were still in a sexual relationship, the way he treated her seemed very unhealthy, and I told her as such, but Shannon was insistent that he was good for her. The things that Emily showed in her video, the messages from Anthony, the guy seems like a piece of shit, but I guess further confirmation on that front. Eventually, she shared one of Anthony's music videos that featured Emily and told me that Emily was also Anthony's ex. Shannon told me that Emily was crazy, and Anthony only kept her around because she was a good singer, among other things. For the next while, every time Shannon and I would hang out, she would fixate entirely on Emily. She would point out all of what she perceived as Emily's flaws, would talk about how all of her tattoos were related to Anthony somehow, everything she could to put her down. I thought it was strange to fixate so much on an ex's ex, but I was desperate for anyone to help me out with my situation I was in, so I ignored a lot of the red flags. I haven't really been able to forgive myself for that, especially consider what came next. In my experience, with mostly with my friends, because generally my exes never really, back when I was dating, ever really knew each other, but I can say that it's not too uncommon for a current girlfriend to talk shit about the partner's ex. It really isn't, but it sounds like this was a little bit more extreme. Shannon began to cyberstalk Emily, first stating by finding her YouTube page. She shared videos with me, and I immediately thought that was harmless and it would go no further. Which, I mean, sharing some YouTube videos. Yeah, I see where he's coming from. But Shannon started looking for her home address, her phone number, or any other info she could find. Shannon told me how she had plans to harass Emily, either by sending her letters or prank calling her home, how she planned to leave hate messages on her videos or DM her from burner accounts to spread hate. This is when I began to distance myself from Shannon. That's a serious claim, and it backs up what Emily was claiming in her video. The distance led me back to my abuser, which is a different story, but one of my last interactions with Shannon was her proudly showing me that Emily had posted a video about closing her YouTube channel because of the harassment she was receiving. Yeah, I mean, I would not put that past Shannon, or at least the Shannon that I've seen on social media. Emily talked about how much it hurt to lose something that was important to her, but she was so anxious and in pain from the targeted harassment that she couldn't continue. It was at that point that I began to cut Shannon off. Smart man. I felt guilty since that day that I didn't do anything sooner, that I didn't go to the police with what I knew, or at least attempt to talk with Shannon to tell her what she was doing wasn't okay, but I was battling my own demons and none of that seemed like an option. Over the years, I would occasionally receive cryptic messages from Shannon at weird hours of the night, usually just a single emoji or a strangely written greeting. This caused me to block her on most of my social media. Since then, I've deleted or rebranded my online presence to avoid my abuser. But about a year ago, Shannon found all my new accounts and added me with no contact. I used this as an opportunity to confront her for what she did. Screenshots of that in the next tweet. Okay, so this is what I really want to get to. I made it a habit to screenshot my actions because my abuser had recently begun to spread incredibly harmful rumors about me. I don't have screenshots of her response because her account has been deleted, but I requested my data from Twitter today to see if I can get it. So let's see here. Hey, there's been a while. I'm not sure how you found me, but it's nice to see a face from the past. Glad to see you have a pretty sizable following now and have found some sort of success. I hope you're doing okay other than that. Life is pretty wild nowadays. We talked, we engaged in some very concerning behavior. I was in a really dark place from Victoria, and you were basically my only friend, so I just ignored how bad everything was, and that was very wrong of me. What began as what appeared at that time a fun little thing to learn more about someone you had tangential connections with quickly developed into cyber stalking, bullying, and harassment. What happened was not okay, and I should have said something sooner. I should have said something at the time, but I didn't. And that was really weighed on me over the years. So I guess I'm saying something now. We were younger and dumber, but we still should have known better. I think that's all kind of fair. And, you know, as far as why he didn't come forward sooner and confront Shannon when this was happening, I can understand that he's saying, like, he was dealing with his own shit and just this other girl, it was not a priority for him. And maybe some people think that that's a shitty thing, but you know, you're talking about college age dude who's dealing with some shit. I can understand why that might not be a priority, why he wouldn't want to, you know, call the cops. And what is he even going to tell the cops? She told me she's doing these things. It's not like I get why he didn't come forward and confront Shannon at the time. It seems a lot of your content is focused on calling out people who have had similar behavior, and I hope that's a sign that you've changed for the better. I'd like to believe that I've changed quite a bit since we last spoke, and a whole lot has damaged me. I've made great efforts to cut off large portions of my life from when we were friends. I'm concerned, I'm very hesitant to let people into my life as it stands. I'm not accusing you of anything malicious or that you have bad intentions. I've just got conspiracy theory brain nowadays. Victoria consistently stalked me for years after we officially broke up, and when she finally lost her last shred of contact with me, she started spreading extremely malicious lies about me so she could have some sort of control. I lost a lot because of it. And I've learned to not trust things and not believe in coincidences. It might not be a true lesson, but it is the lesson I learned. I deleted my Facebook. I'm fairly certain I have you blocked on Instagram, which is either something Victoria had me do or I did it as an effort to distance myself from the past / get over the guilt. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is, but it's fair to give you an explanation. I delete my Facebook explanation. I know I've abandoned my social media presence after we stopped talking, so I feel like to find me, you'd have to be actively looking for me, or you've been keeping tabs on me ever since, and either situation sets off a whole lot of alarms in my head. Again, I'm not accusing you of doing anything malicious. I'm accusing me of paranoia, but I am still concerned. And Double, again, I really and genuinely hope you are doing well. It just stresses me a whole lot to have contact with anyone from that part of my life. I'm sorry. So I'm looking at those comments that he left for Shannon, right? He does bring up that in the past Shannon was cyber stalking someone, was bullying them, was harassing them, which would line up with Emily stating that this has been going on because it's 2011 when they met, so about 10 years or so. So this all kind of lines up with what Emily was saying about how Shannon's been doing this to her for years, right? And there are no dates on these messages, but he did do a follow-up in which he shows that I guess he took these screenshots October 12th, 2020. So I'm willing to believe that he literally sent these messages back then. He never mentions Emily's name, but I mean, unless Shannon was doing this to another girl. And I still have to say allegedly, because the only way I could see this being some massive setup on Shannon is this guy has been communicating with Emily in private since October of last year. So we're talking 10 months or 8 months. Gosh, it's late for me right now, so my math skills are atrocious. But has been plotting to do this to Shannon, and he sent these messages so that he could then like that just sounds very absurd to me. It sounds completely absurd to me. So I'm willing to believe that these are legit messages they did send to Shannon, which would confirm his story and Emily's story. But however, to be clear, he doesn't show Shannon responding to it and saying, yes, I did these things, or even denying that she did these things. Victoria referenced in that screenshot is my abuser. I use language that includes myself and the past actions because I was afraid of her targeting me if she hadn't changed, and I just came out completely confronting her. Shannon's response was to brush off accountability, saying, we were just dumb kids. She also insisted that she found me naturally, which didn't make sense, and we had no similar circles, and I had an even smaller following back then. She immediately said she would block me so I didn't have to be concerned about her, which didn't seem like an action a guiltless person would take. I thought it was over. I didn't know how much she was doing to hurt other people, but it seems like she never really changed from when I knew her. My heart goes out to everyone she hurt and everyone who thought they could trust her. This is such a terrible situation. If anyone needs an ear, please feel free to reach out. If it becomes necessary, I can reopen my Facebook and try to download the data there, as I believe I have further evidence of Shannon's behavior, but I hope this chapter can close and people can find some way to heal from the damage she's caused. Look, even if this is enough for most people, it's kind of enough for me, right? Legally, I of course have to say allegedly and everything, but this kind of is enough for me to say Shannon did these things, and in my opinion, I think she's guilty of a lot of this fucking behavior. When you stack it up with the shit she was pulling on LolCow, Shannon is a scheming, manipulative, duplicitous see you next Tuesday, so I can keep this video monetized. But yeah, no, like, again, I am largely biased against Shannon, so I want to be as clear as I can. Shannon tried to pull that manipulative, oh, they're bringing up my trauma from being homeless to one of my friends and one of the people who used to regularly be in the streams, right? Grim has literally, she did it to Grim, and Grim has been on our channel before, right? So I openly admit right now to everybody, I have a very negative bias against Shannon. I don't like her. So seeing this, maybe that's why I'm looking at it and just going like, this confirms it. But again, he's showing that, he can prove that he didn't just recently send those messages and then take those screenshots, or he didn't fake it, unless he faked it in October and then was plotting to do this. Like, that just seems so nuts and absurd. But also, I wanted to bring up one final thing, and that was in True Sleuth's video. She took a clip of a interview Shannon did a while back, right? And in it, Shannon mentions the name of the library in Oregon where her and Anthony would go to. And apparently, this is a library in which Emily traced an IP from one of the sock puppet accounts to.
In Portland, Oregon. And I was working a couple different jobs, and I would watch YouTube videos, and I would watch drama channels, and I would watch commentary channels, just so much commentary.
And here she is name dropping Emily.
Drawing. I think actually Emily Artful. She made story times where she would talk. There's a YouTuber named Emily Artful. She would do story times while drawing, and I think that came out around the same time as like my videos did. So I think it was like we both kind of had that same like wavelength moment.
Actually, no, that's totally false what she just stated. Emily posted her first story time.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. It's about to come up, but I wanted to also play that part too because I think that this is pretty funny. January 22nd, 2016, sketchbook story time. And then the first story time video that Shannon did, July 10th, 2018. I'm not entirely sure how a 2.5 year gap is around the same time, but things must work differently in Shannon's really messed up head.
On January 22nd, 2016, and CreepShow posted her first one on July 10th, 2018. I don't know how that is considered starting around the same time. That is literally 2 years apart. And here's the most telling evidence of all. In Emily's video, she mentioned a library called Tigard Public Library in Oregon. She also mentioned tricking them a few times into clicking IP tracker links, and one of those times led right back to this library. So let's take a listen at the sound of CreepShow unwittingly digging her own grave.
So I would go every day to a Starbucks or to the Tigard Public Library, and I would sit and I would just draw for hours trying to like.
Now, as far as a smoking gun goes, because I watched the stream with Tommy C, if you didn't see it, oh my gosh, hilarious, right? But as far as like a smoking gun goes, you have Shannon stating that she was at the library where Emily actually traced an IP from one of the sock puppet accounts to. Now, is it possible that another individual just happened to also be at the same library as Shannon? Is it possible that this Kevin Coulter person, since October 12th, 2020, was plotting with Emily for this big, massive takedown of CreepShow art? I mean, it's technically within the realm of possibility. It's just, think about all the things that would need to be true for Shannon to be innocent of the cyber stalking and harassing and bullying of Emily. It just it's just a little bit too much, right? So I actually like this. This is what I consider actual receipts, you know? Showing the actual time when he screenshotted the messages and everything. That's what I would consider actual receipts on Shannon. Seeing Shannon actually stating that she was using the library where one of the sock puppet accounts had been IP traced to. Yeah, I would say that I'm comfortable saying that Shannon was cyber stalking Emily for that amount of time, right? That Shannon was obsessed with Emily, and that and actually even before any of this stuff came out, that Shannon is a two-faced manipulative liar. You link it into the shit she was pulling on the lolcow forums and everything. Yeah, I cannot see any way, shape, or form that Shannon is well, I can see one way, shape, or form in which Shannon is innocent of all of these claims and charges made against her and everything. But one thing I will say is the cyber stalking, the harassment, and the bullying and everything, I do think Shannon can be held legally liable because one of the things that came up in Emily Artful's video that she mentioned, and she said that she was going to contact the employer. I wish she had done that prior to putting it into the video because it would just be like one massive nail in the coffin legally for Shannon, is bringing up that one of the jobs where she was fired from, she's trying to get proof that that was because of things being said by Shannon. And I think that potentially, like, civilly, you could sue her. I'm not entirely sure what Shannon's done that could be criminal. Obviously, the cyber stalking thing and everything, that is way over the fucking line for me. But I'm not entirely sure what kind of crimes you could charge Shannon with. What I will say is, like, there's no saving this woman's reputation, right? I can't see her coming back. And if she issues an apology to Emily Artful, I mean, look at all the shit. Look at all the shit that she has done and she has pulled, right? Look at all the garbage and the trash she has been doing for literal fucking years, right? If she came forward with an apology to Emily Artful, I wouldn't even take it seriously because, like, fucking Christ, right? But yeah, I think that this is all very important context. I think that this is the closest thing to a smoking gun you could have. Now, obviously, Emily did not show the eyepiece for very obvious reasons, because you can't do that on YouTube. But if Emily's being truthful, and I'm going to assume that she is not lying about this, she has traced a sock puppet account to the library, which Shannon has admitted to using, right? The only way Shannon could be innocent of this stuff would be the same person cyber stalking and harassing Emily also went to the same library that Shannon was using at this time, and also Kevin would have to have been in contact with Emily Artful and was plotting to drop this months later. Like, that's just asinine to me. But again, my experience, in my opinion and everything, I've never had any positive things to say about Shannon. I've always thought of her from the first time I've heard of her as just being a nasty, vindictive, and petty person. And seeing this all confirmed for me does make me feel good, right? It absolutely does. And as far as Emily goes, hopefully this kind of vindicates her. Hopefully this does something for her. That she's able to actually out and confirm. I appreciate this Kevin guy coming forward with this evidence. I know he said that, like, this should be enough, but I think just to keep burying Shannon, if he does gain access to the Facebook account and he does have further messages of Shannon talking about Emily, he absolutely needs to show those, because I don't want Shannon to come forward with some sob story about the trauma from being homeless, and people try to, like, forgive her, because I can see people doing that. And I think Shannon just needs to be done with the internet, done with the YouTubes, done with social media. I think she needs to crawl back into where fucking hole spawned her, and come out of it as just a completely different fucking person, because everything about this girl is just a fucking mess.